hard act to follow. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome on this incredibly beautiful day. I felt like I was driving through a Monet painting when I saw all the red maples as I was driving here. I'm Barb Holzhauer, one of the trustees, and this is part of our trustees' duty to be the point person, you might say, on the intros for this morning. I have a land acknowledgement that is a little bit different than some that we've had in the past. I found it actually as part of the Milwaukee County Parks, and I thought it was interesting. And since we usually have the same one, I thought, why not mix it up a little bit? We respectfully acknowledge that the land and waterways encompassing our area are on ancestral homeland of indigenous people, including the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee. We recognize that they were forcefully removed from their lands along the shores of Michigami, North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign nations remain present. In honoring their ancestral owners and stewards of these lands and waterways, we strive to be respectful stewards. I'm just making sure I'm going down my list here of all the little items that I have to say. Want to be sure to welcome any of the online people that we have today. This is a overflow crowd just about, which is fantastic. But we also welcome any of you who happen to be online. As you know, Jill's not here today, but we have Philip Chard with us, and I was delighted when I heard that he was going to be here. I don't know about you guys, but I remember reading his column for years, and it was always interesting and uplifting. So it was great to finally put a face to that column. There are a few kind of housekeeping items that I want to mention. If you're a newcomer here, please fill out one of the blue sheets and leave it as you are leaving. Or if you're online, you can always do it online. Or if for some reason you don't get it done today, you can always go to our website and take care of that. If you are a guest here, we would love to interact with you after the service. We do have a newcomer table that used to be in the community room, but now is in whatever you want to call the area out there, the foyer, the hall. At any rate, there will be somebody there to meet with you if you're interested. For those of you who kind of would rather be doing something with your hands so that you can pay attention to what's being said, we've got a worship exploration table over here on my left, and you're welcome to use that. In terms of RE, our religious education, it's a pretty typical day, so you don't have to worry about that. And since Jill is not here, we are not doing in-person joys and concerns today. But again, you can look at those online. You can submit those online. I just want to highlight a few of the announcements, which are on the second page of your order of service. If you especially take a look at number 8, which is to fill out the safety assessment, the people that have worked very, very hard to put together a safety plan for our congregation would really appreciate your input on that. And then if you're looking for another chance to do something outside, pay attention to what it says in number 10 about joining for the highway cleanup on the 19th of October. Let's see now, I think I have a couple more things that I'm supposed to do. Oh yeah, one more. I have a number of hats, except this one doesn't involve a hat. This involves a little bit of costuming. Oh, yeah. So, in case you hadn't been here in the past for reminders about the auction, it's coming up, and we are looking forward to your support for lights, camera, auction. It's actually going to be held partly online and then in person. It starts on November 6th, and it culminates on November 9th. And we have here an opportunity for someone who has already donated to win this wonderful prize basket. Now, this is the last drawing, but you can still donate items, and we are especially looking for items that perhaps support some of the social action groups that you have. Maybe a membership in an action group, maybe a donation to their cause, or maybe something that you've purchased that you've given to them, but then you can donate it as an auction item and everybody wins. So the winner is Deb Ritchie Kohlberg. Okay, I think I've done everything. And if I haven't, I'm sure someone will remind me. Thank you.
Like the coat. Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Fry. I'm a member of the worship ministry team. My pronouns are he and his. It's my pleasure this morning, as always, I've done it a few times, to have one of our good friends and favorite speakers, Philip Chard, is with us. Good to see you. Some of the things, there was some bio information in the announcements. One of the things that I noticed going to his webpage, this guy does a lot. You know, he's born and raised in the Midwest. Some of his passions, sailing the Great Lakes, wilderness backpacking, nature photography, writing, meteorology, astrophysics, eco-psychology, and delving deeply into the human condition. Like I say, he does a lot. So welcome, Phil. Good to have you with us. And now we're going to call to worship by lighting our chalice. Please join me. Please join reading with me in your order of service. And those of you at home, if you want to take this time to kindle your own chalice, that's a great thing. We come from many places, along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories and different realities. And yet, we come together as one people, with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, to bring wholeness to a fractured world. We come seeking to find community, to find acceptance of who we are. In this place, we may find others who are much like us, and others who are much different. May our lit chalice remind us that we are a people taught by different stories, with many voices, but always one people, working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace. Please, as you are willing and able, stand and join in singing hymn 1010, We Give Thanks. As was said earlier, we're not going to do in-person joys and concerns, but I'm hoping that the meditation will help us focus on those things we need to remember. It's called Grounding by Jess Reynolds. On my worst days, it is gravity I am most grateful for. The way the earth pulls at me from her core, yearns for me, keeps me pressed lightly against her surface. When my own core is hollowed out, when I have no more mass than a leaf dead on the branch, still, this is enough for the earth to find me. She reaches for what little I have and says, stay. Every meditation I have ever done begins by asking me to ground myself. This is not so much an action as it is inaction, a voluntary abandonment of my own edges and tidy packaging. Sit with me now. Press the soles of your feet back into the ground you sprang from. Feel the weight of your body and know that it is glorious. You are born of soil and sun, and all the heaviness of the earth is a call to you. The earth is reaching for you. Reach back. Reach back.
Morning. I'm grateful to be with you this morning. Some of the ideas I'm going to share with you may seem for some of you a bit out there, for others not so much. But I ask you to open your minds and your hearts and see what we can create here together. We are not both a body and a mind. We are one body-mind, a fully integrated biochemical and electromagnetic entity that, among other things, embodies consciousness. The common belief that mental and physical processes are independent of each other has long been debunked by science. But this myth remains strongly and stubbornly ingrained in our thinking and continues to inform many approaches that we have to treating illness and disease. Our healthcare system is a primary example. We separate mental and medical care. Too often, each of these two systems operates in its own silo. creating the illusion that cognitive and somatic experiences are entirely or largely distinct. They are not. This distortion began in earnest with the writings of René Descartes, a French philosopher and mathematician living in the 17th century, who proposed that what we call mind is a disembodied presence that functions independently from the body. While it is gradually changing, this view still dominates how we perceive ourselves and our physiology. In medical circles, the oft-used phrase that is a poster child for this delusion is, "It's all in your head." More than a few of us have heard an equivalent pronouncement or at least implication from a healthcare provider, unable to nail down the physical causes for our symptoms. This and similar assertions, such as mind over matter, reinforce the misguided notion that mental experiences do not have physical correlates, and vice versa. Thankfully, this is changing, albeit gradually. The concept of the mindful body, or body-mind, interchangeable, increasingly influences how we deliver healthcare, both medical and mental, but it remains a minority view. Most of us continue to perceive the body as a biological machine that, when diseased or wounded, needs to be fixed by mechanical or pharmaceutical means. And the majority opinion is that the mind is some ghost-like presence arising from the brain, but operating on an entirely different level of reality. Granted, there are times when the body does require so-called mechanical intervention, and some medical advances in this regard are genuinely amazing. Innovations in treatment for cancer, cardiovascular disease, neurological disorders, and many other maladies have made stunning progress. Nonetheless, viewing the body simply as a biological machine is misguided and impairs our progress in harnessing the power of the mind within matter. The slowly emerging paradigm of a unified body-mind proposes that physical and mental processes arise from a fully integrated system, the mindful body. It argues that mind over matter is actually mind within matter. Its proponents point to growing evidence that the entire body, not simply the brain, exhibits consciousness, that it is sentient and intentional. If, in fact, the entire body is conscious, then consciousness itself exerts direct influence over physiological conditions and processes. It serves as the operating system for the body-mind. This is already entirely scientifically plausible. One common example is the so-called placebo effect, a powerful demonstration of the mindful body at work, but one that is often dismissed as an artifact. The phrase, "it was just the placebo effect," suggests the mind somehow tricks the body, sort of like a magician using misdirection. But belief and trickery are not the same. So if consciousness is a fundamental force inhabiting our physical bodies, exactly what is it? Determining the nature of consciousness is what neuroscientists and philosophers call the hard problem, because it is. We struggle to unlock this mystery and have made little progress in this regard. For example, if consciousness is simply a byproduct of the brain, for example, where in the brain is it located and how is it generated? We don't know. Despite countless studies to answer the question, we simply can't. But we do suggest a radical idea in its place. Perhaps the brain, as well as the rest of the body, is a byproduct of consciousness rather than the other way around. There is compelling evidence that each individual's consciousness creates its own unique biology. How we perceive so-called reality, the beliefs we hold about the nature of ourselves and the world around us, influence biological structures and processes in the body. So, where consciousness goes, the body follows. Sound a bit woo-woo? Well, here are some examples of how this takes place. An experiment conducted by Harvard psychologist Helen Langer back in 1979 provided tangible evidence for how consciousness creates biology. Langer recruited a group of elderly men in their 80s and 90s, put them through a battery of medical and psychological tests, and then placed them in a retreat center for 5 days, after which they repeated these tests to determine if anything had changed. The retreat center was set up as a kind of time capsule. Everything in it was from 1959. The furniture, the books, the magazines, the movies, TV programs, the decor, everything. So these elderly men spent 5 days living in the same kind of environment they inhabited when 20 years younger. They felt themselves to be younger, so it changed their consciousness. But did it change anything else? Very much so. Among other measures, the men showed statistically significant increases in memory, attention, reaction time. What's more, they exhibited improvements in posture, balance, vision, hearing. Nobody gets improvements in hearing. Blood pressure, and several other biometric markers. Anecdotally, their family members affirmed that these men looked and acted younger. Not 20 years younger, mind you, but enough to be clearly measurable and observable. All this in 5 days. In variations, this experiment has been replicated a number of times. Since then, other studies have provided additional examples of mind within matter. Let's consider a few. One's perception of time passing influences the rate at which a wound heals. In one experiment, the subject's time perception was sped up, convincing them more time had passed than actually did. This belief reduced the time required for wound healing. Thinking you will catch a cold significantly increases the odds you will. This is a common example of belief creating reality. Expectations for weight loss from daily exercise influence how much one actually loses. All other variables being equal, including caloric intake and calories burned in exercise, those who believed they would lose more weight actually did. Beliefs arising from biometric measures, which all of us have had, influence long-term health outcomes. Subjects whose A1C was 1 tick outside the normal range were told they were at risk of developing diabetes. Those whose measure was 1 tick inside the normal range were told they were fine. Those who believed they were pre-diabetic were much more likely to develop diabetes than those subjects who were told they were not at risk. In other words, the difference between abnormal and normal readings was tiny, but the beliefs these measures created resulted in substantial changes in health status. In a nursing home study, half the residents were giving something to manage or influence, even as simple as caring for a plant, deciding when to eat, determining what movies to watch, etc. Simple things. After 18 months, those given something to manage were only half as likely to have died as those who were not. The perception of agency, of having power to influence one's experience, made the difference. Finally, in another study, 650 people were interviewed about their views, their beliefs about aging. On average, those with a positive attitude lived 7 years longer. Translation: thoughts and beliefs are not disembodied apparitions ghosting through one's consciousness. They arise from, are part of, and directly affect physiology. As research shows, the way we think about time, biometrics, personal power, and aging influences our health and well-being. Does this mean mental processes are all powerful, that we can cure disease and reverse aging simply by how we think? Of course not. These effects demonstrate influence, not total control. Another example of where this interface manifests is when a physician gives someone unwelcome news, such as an advanced cancer diagnosis. Statistical modeling provides estimates, or perhaps I should say guesstimates, about the prognosis of any potentially lethal disease. Telling someone they have a set time to live based on an algorithm masquerades as predictive certainty, which simply does not exist. As the great physicist Niels Bohr said, predictions are difficult, particularly about the future. I know that was attributed to Yogi Berra, but it was actually Niels Bohr. So. Some people receiving a terminal diagnosis disbelieve that and disprove those prognostications. But most folks are more likely to believe them than not. And belief is no small influence. Hence, a prognosis, unless truly certain, should always come with maybe. Why? Because hope propels belief, which in turn influences the entire body-mind. In discussing this with a physician friend of mine, he cautioned against giving a patient false hope. Fair enough. However, neither should we be giving them false despair. Hope is part of healing and central to the well-being of the body-mind. And giving people so-called false despair can prove powerful. One example emerges in the opposite of the placebo effect, which is called the nocebo effect. This occurs when one harbors negative expectations about the effectiveness of a medication or treatment. For example, if your doctor prescribes a medication but introduces doubt about its efficacy or strongly emphasizes potential side effects, it is far more likely you will experience a negative result. This is particularly true if you trust your physician, meaning you are inclined to believe their admonitions. There are some fundamental premises that underpin the concept of the body-mind, so let's take a quick look at those. Primary among these comes from physics, and that is the principle that everything is energy. Matter, including our bodies, is simply energy in the form of stuff. Even what appears inert, when viewed at the atomic level, is brimming with energy. What's more, something called bioelectricity enervates all living things. Some refer to bioelectricity as the life force. Those who believe in the body-mind propose that consciousness can influence energy and perhaps bioelectricity itself. The studies I've shared, along with many others, support this hypothesis. Another core premise here is that the body is not a thing, but a process. It is, as Deepak Chopra told us, a verb rather than a noun. The physical body is not, in fact, physical. Rather, it is energy that manifests in material form. Energy is constantly altering our bodies through a perpetual flow of atoms, both inward and out. For example, each time you inhale, you take in 10 to the power of 22 atoms. What's more, when you exhale, you breathe out atoms in your body from your heart, your brain, your blood, and the rest. Meaning, the body you inhabited when walking into church this morning is not exactly the same body you are inhabiting right now. In fact, none of the atoms in our bodies are the ones we were born with. Essentially, we are forms. We're kind of like biological scaffolding, if you will, through which energy flows, constantly transforming us. And by the way, those atoms come from stars that exploded eons in the past. We are stardust. We are stellar processes flowing through the universe, constantly in motion and endlessly changing. And we and everything is part of that process. And these are not processes confined to we Homo sapiens. A phenomenon called basal cognition shows that tiny clumps of cells show advanced cognitive skills. They take in information from the environment and they act on it, making decisions and planning actions. In fact, this capacity is present in all living entities. Even single-celled organisms like some bacteria exhibit learning, intention, and problem solving. The same is true for plants and fungi. You say fungi or fungi? Potato, potato. Some proponents of the mindful body concept believe that consciousness, a form of energy, is the foundation of everything. They propose that all matter, forms, and processes, including us, arise from consciousness itself, which they view as the so-called ground of being. They believe our bodies are, if you will, epiphenomena birthed from this fundamental consciousness, rather than a thing that gives rise to consciousness. This takes the belief that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain and, pun intended, turns it on its head. Given all this, we're just beginning to understand how to apply these body-mind concepts to influence our bodies in the interests of greater well-being and a longer health span, as opposed to lifespan. Functional medicine physicians and certain energy practitioners are leading the way in this regard. In their enthusiasm, some overpromise, asserting that our mindset and beliefs are all-powerful in determining our physical well-being. This is clearly not the case. However, we have much to learn about how far we can extend the influence of consciousness on our health. So, based on our current state of knowledge, what can we do to take advantage of the body-mind concept? Well, first is how we can change the way we think about our bodies, recognizing they're not just material machines. Instead, when we perceive the body as an energy-based process, this belief alone impacts our ability to apply consciousness in the service of greater well-being. Next, and you've heard this one before, we need to do our best to optimize sleep. During sleep, the body rejuvenates itself, directly influencing our health at the cellular level. Those with chronic sleep issues can sadly confirm how poor, non-restorative sleep causes many ills, both physical and mental. So if sleep's a problem for us, we need to do everything we can to get it in order. Not an easy thing sometimes. By the way, for those of you that wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I think it would be considerable. There is this little trick we use to help you go back to sleep that is called paradoxical intention. This is off script. Most of the time when we want to fall back to sleep, we lay there with our eyes closed, right? That's the standard routine. In fact, you should lay there with your eyes wide open as you can make them. I mean, like wide open, okay? And when you do that and hold them open as long as you can, and when they start to close, open them up again and hold them open as long as you do that for a few minutes, there's a pretty good chance at one point, when they start to go down, they go all the way. Game over. Give it a try. Another vital practice in supporting the mindful body is meditation. Many of you have heard about this. You've been told to do it for a long time. Some of you do it, some of you don't. It's okay, but here's the deal. Numerous neuroscientific studies at multiple institutions, including the Center for Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, show that within a few days of starting a meditation practice, people show almost a 40% increase in enzymes that positively influence biological aging. Also, genes that support homeostasis and cellular repair become upregulated, meaning their expression amplifies, and those that ignite inflammation, a cause of many physical and psychological ills, become downregulated. So meditation is one of the most powerful things we can do to engage our consciousness in supporting the health of the body. By the way, those of you who have either tried meditation and given up or not tried it at all, it's really doesn't require much time or effort. The studies show 5 to 10 minutes a day of meditation is all you need to get these positive effects. And if you're sitting there thinking, I tried that, and when I close my eyes and I focus on my breath, do all that stuff, my mind goes nuts. That's what every meditator experiences. In fact, that's what you need to experience. When your mind is distracted and you return to your focus, whether it's breathing or something else, you're basically training your brain when it becomes distracted to refocus on the present. So being distracted is a vital part of learning how to meditate. One more comment about meditation, because it deserves it. I had the opportunity to be at a program where the Dalai Lama spoke in Madison, and he was up on the stage, and there was a panel of people, and us in the audience were sending questions up on little note cards, and they would pick out which ones they wanted to ask him. He speaks broken English, so he had a translator with him. And one of the questions that came up that they read was, Your Holiness, which is how they address him, I've been trying to meditate for years and I just can't do it. Every time I try, I fail over and over and over again. Help me, what should I do? And when the Dalai Lama read the question, he went on his own. He didn't go through the translator. He does have broken English. And he said, meditate. 1 minute. That's all. Maybe week. 2 minutes. That's all. Later, you may want 3 minutes. That's all. The idea is do it a little. Don't worry about the time. Frequency is much more important than duration. So if you aren't doing it now, I encourage you to pick it up as a daily practice. Enough about meditation. Another important focus is movement. Our bodies are energy in motion. The type of movement or the exercise is less important than just moving itself. Through movement, we experience the body as a process, as an activity, rather than as a thing. And this reinforces a core principle behind the mindful body, that we are, in fact, a process, not an object. Next up, from my world, is emotional well-being. The term emotion means E, or energy in motion, emotion. When we experience feelings, they activate processes in the limbic brain, some call it the reptilian brain. If our feelings are positive, such as satisfaction, compassion, delight, awe and wonder, which we often get from nature, tenderness and the like, we create something called limbic resonance. During this state, we activate hormones and neuropeptides, which are immunomodulators. They promote cellular repair. So, in contrast, negative emotions, mostly based on fear, promote limbic dissonance, which disrupts homeostasis and it fuels destructive inflammation in the body. Meditation, exercise or movement, acts of kindness, positive social connections, nature immersion, loving touch, and gratitude all support limbic resonance. Finally, one we want to hear about the least is nutrition. When we eat, we put energy in the form of food into energy in the form of a body. These respective energies interact and assimilate, for good or ill, depending on what we consume. In general, an anti-inflammatory diet proves most supportive of homeostasis and cellular repair. You are what you eat is more than a pithy aphorism. Of course, there are other practices that support and heal the body-mind. Approaches like Reiki, force bathing, qigong, acupuncture, yogic pranayama, hypnosis, and neurofeedback, among many others, contribute to the positive energy influences underpinning the mindful body paradigm. In ways we don't yet understand, and to an extent we are currently incapable of measuring, our bodies are an extension of our consciousness. Where our consciousness goes, the body in part follows. Our physical being is constantly recreating itself. Atoms in, atoms out. To what extent can our consciousness participate in that transformative process? We don't know yet, but I'm optimistic we will discover that our influence in this regard is far greater than what we currently envision. But first we must get past this belief that the body is just a biological machine. Perhaps we will realize there is a mysterious truth in what Deepak Chopra envisioned when he said this: each of us is here to discover our true selves, that essentially we are spiritual beings who have taken manifestation in physical form, that we're not human beings that have occasional spiritual experiences, that we're spiritual beings that have occasional human experiences. If there's anything that I've learned in my own work about consciousness, it is that it is a mysterious something that we are only beginning to learn how to tap into and utilize for our own benefit. The more that we experiment and explore in this regard, the more likely we are to reach that place where we truly believe that the body is mindful and that that mindfulness can promote our well-being and our health over time. Thank you for your time and your attention. Blessings to you and yours, and most of all, be well. Thank you.
UU Church West's Split the Plate program is one of outreach and generosity. Each month, we give half of all undesignated offerings to a nonprofit organization to help us live our Unitarian Universalist values, pursue the goal of social justice, and serve our community. Our Split the Plate partner for October is Reflow, or maybe it's Reflow, I'm not sure which. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting sustainable water use and fair water management. Through their Green and Healthy Schools program, they work in partnership with the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District and others to transform schoolyard asphalt into green spaces. These nature-inspired areas help absorb rainwater, prevent flooding, boost urban biodiversity with plants and trees, and encourage students to learn about the environment. Here's a brief video highlighting the playground transformation process and its benefits to schools and students.
Many Milwaukee area schoolyards are in poor condition and offer little, if any, green space. Schoolyards were originally paved to reduce lawn maintenance costs, but decades of inertia have left deteriorating infrastructure that is costly to repair, that impairs the environmental health of our city and the social-emotional health of our children. The redevelopment process begins with schools applying to receive conceptual planning support provided by Reflow and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. Each year, 5 schools are awarded the planning grant based on their need and enthusiasm for a greener, healthier schoolyard. The year-long planning process consists of monthly Green Team meetings that culminate in the development of a conceptual plan document that is well supported by the school community, administration, and project partners. Schools spent over a year fundraising with support from the school district, project partners, and community. School districts hire engineering consultants to create the necessary detailed designs before construction can begin in the summer of the 3rd year of the process.
I am not going to litter because water carries trash down hills into the river or lake.
I am going to remind my family that our choices affect more than just ourselves. Everything is connected.
These projects don't only help our schools receive a new and better playground, they're also helping the environment and making a positive change in our communities.
An increasing body of research underscores that students' access to green schoolyards can result in better academic outcomes, increased engagement and enthusiasm, improved social-emotional skills, and decreased childhood obesity. Redeveloped schoolyards also offer many other benefits, including improved stormwater management, urban biodiversity, community engagement, and meaningful STEAM curricular connections.
So now I know it's Reflow. We at UUCW are pleased to support Reflow, and your contribution will aid their efforts. Go to the UUCW website Donate tab and select Split the Plate from the menu provided, or you can text or mail your donation using the information found here. We thank you most sincerely for your support. We'll now accept your offerings. Please join me in the dedication as is printed in your order of service. To the work of this community, which is to ground ourselves in love and joy, and to act for inclusion and justice, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Now, please join in hymn number 1012, When I Am Frightened.
Will you reassure me when I'm uncertain? Will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me, stand by me willingly? Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. That I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me, comfort me tenderly? Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to
Our closing words today are from Cheryl Block. As we go forward into this frightening, exhilarating, confusing, miraculous world, may we offer our comfort to the afflicted, our love to those who are lonely, and our wish for all to be safe. May it be so.